The developers and the officials who waved them through do not want you to see this video, because these 12 Carolina towns grew so fast that the roads, the schools, and the water systems are now physically breaking under the strain, and the people who live there are paying the price every single day. See, there's a dark side to a boomtown that the glossy relocation ads never mention. When a town doubles in size faster than anyone planned for, the growth doesn't just bring new restaurants and rising home values. It brings gridlock on roads built for a town half the size, classrooms so full that kids get taught in trailers, and water and sewer systems pushed right up to their breaking point. I drove all over both Carolinas to find the places where the growth has genuinely outrun the infrastructure, and what I found was eye-opening. There's a school so overcrowded it's teaching hundreds of kids in trailers, in a district with 20 campuses over capacity. There's a town that spent hundreds of millions on toll lanes and still can't fix its traffic, where commuters pay almost $30 a day just to get to work. There's a booming suburb that quietly ran low on water and sewer capacity, limiting how many homes can even be built. And there's a tiny town whose whole utility system is straining under a flood of new neighbors. If you're thinking of moving to a Carolina boomtown, you need to see which systems are buckling first. Let's count them down. So hit that subscribe button now because we're counting all 12 of these down, and you do not want to miss number 1. Let's count it down. Number 12, Angier, North Carolina. When I first drove into Angier, a tiny town southeast of Raleigh that calls itself a town of friendly people, I could see the strain of a small place trying to absorb a big city overflow. Here's the wildcard fact. Angier sits right in the path of 2 of the biggest growth engines in the state, the booming Raleigh area to its north and the sprawling Fort Liberty military region to its south. And as families pour in looking for affordable homes, this once sleepy little town's small-scale roads and utility systems are straining to keep up with a population growing far faster than the infrastructure ever anticipated. That's the teaser I promised you, a tiny town whose whole system is stretched thin by a flood of new neighbors. When a town of a few thousand suddenly has to serve many times that, the water lines, the sewer plants, and the 2-lane roads all feel it at once. For newcomers, Angier is an affordable foothold near the triangle. For the town itself, it's a daily scramble to build fast enough. And this is the quiet version of the story you'll see all over this list. The strain doesn't always make headlines, it just shows up as low water pressure, a backed-up intersection, and a town council meeting where everyone's worried about the same thing. Small town, big overflow, and infrastructure racing to catch up. Number 11, Boiling Springs, South Carolina. When I first drove into Boiling Springs, a fast-growing suburb just north of Spartanburg, I saw a town whose schools are the front line of its growth problem. Here's the wildcard fact. Boiling Springs sits in the booming corridor powered by the massive BMW plant and the Greenville-Spartanburg growth machine, and its school district has had to build and rebuild to keep up. Its high school alone packs in nearly 3,000 students, making it one of the largest in the entire state. When a suburb grows this fast, the schools feel it first and hardest because you can't just conjure new classrooms overnight. Families move here specifically for the well-regarded schools, and then their arrival is exactly what strains those same schools. It took a community bond referendum just to fund a new high school campus to relieve the pressure. For a buyer, Boiling Springs offers upstate affordability and jobs. Just know that the classrooms your kids walk into may be some of the most crowded around, and the roads feeding the interstate get thick at rush hour as the whole BMW corridor keeps pulling in workers. It's a genuinely good place to raise a family, which is exactly why so many families keep arriving and testing its limits. Booming suburb, packed schools, and a district always building to catch up. Number 10, Hampstead, North Carolina. When I first drove into Hampstead, on the coast between Wilmington and Topsail Island, I hit the exact problem that defines this town. There's really only one road. Here's the wildcard fact. Hampstead has exploded with growth as families priced out of Wilmington move north up the coast, but nearly all of that traffic funnels onto a single highway, US 17, the lone main artery connecting this stretch of coast, which now backs up for miles during rush hour and tourist season. That's the trap of coastal growth. You can build endless subdivisions, but you can't easily build a second oceanside highway. The state has been working on a bypass to relieve it, but for now, a town that grew for its laid-back coastal lifestyle spends a chunk of every day sitting in traffic. For a buyer, Hampstead offers beach access and Wilmington jobs at a relative discount. The catch is that single road, and everyone's on it at the same time. The commuters, the beach traffic, the delivery trucks, and the summer tourists, all sharing one lane in each direction. Emergency crews feel it too, since there's no easy way around a backup. It's the kind of bottleneck you don't notice on a quiet Tuesday and can't escape on a busy Friday. Coastal charm, one highway, and a bottleneck that growth keeps tightening. Number 9. Fountain Inn, South Carolina. When I first drove into Fountain Inn, on the southern edge of the booming Greenville metro, I found a genuine small town being swept up in a growth wave far bigger than itself. Here's the wildcard fact. Fountain Inn is one of the fastest growing small towns in the upstate, as Greenville's relentless expansion pushes south and developers fill the surrounding countryside with new neighborhoods, and a town that was built to run at a small town scale is now scrambling to provide big suburb services, from roads to schools to public safety, almost overnight. This is the quiet strain of a small town success. The charm that drew everyone in is the very thing the crowds put at risk. Its historic downtown is lovely, its cost of living is still reasonable, and that combination is exactly why the growth won't stop. For a buyer, it's an affordable, charming landing spot near a thriving city. For the town, it's the constant challenge of staying itself while doubling in size, hiring more police and firefighters, widening the roads, expanding the water lines, all while trying not to bulldoze the very character that made it special. It's a genuinely tricky balancing act, and Fountain Inn is right in the thick of it. Small town heart, big suburb growing pains, and a charm it's fighting to keep. Number 8. Harrisburg, North Carolina. When I first drove into Harrisburg, a fast-growing suburb northeast of Charlotte, I saw a town where the schools are straining to keep pace with the rooftops. Here's the wildcard fact. Harrisburg sits in Cabarrus County, one of the fastest-growing counties in the Charlotte region. And as subdivision after subdivision fills in the land between here and the city, the local schools have had to lean on mobile classroom units and constant expansion just to seat all the new students pouring in. That's the pattern across the whole Charlotte suburban ring. The housing goes up first, fast, and the schools spend years playing catch-up behind it. Families move to Harrisburg for the highly rated schools and the easy Charlotte commute. But that popularity is exactly what packs those classrooms and clogs those roads. For a buyer, it's a desirable, convenient suburb with real appeal. Just go in knowing the schools and roads are running hard to keep up with the boom, and that a subdivision selling homes today may be feeding a school that's already at capacity. It's the classic Charlotte suburb sequence. The rooftops arrive first, and everything else spends years catching up behind them. Growing county, crowded classrooms, and infrastructure a step behind the houses. Number 7. Chapin, South Carolina. When I first drove into Chapin, which proudly calls itself the capital of Lake Murray, I found a small lake town being reshaped by a flood of newcomers. Here's the wildcard fact. Chapin has become one of the most sought-after spots around Columbia thanks to its lake access and its top-rated schools, and the growth has been so intense that its small network of 2-lane country roads, never designed for this kind of volume, now clogs badly at peak hours as thousands of new residents funnel through the same few intersections. That's the classic Lake Town squeeze. The beauty and the schools draw the crowds, and the crowds overwhelm the very small town roads that made it charming. Longtime residents talk about a town that's harder to drive across than it used to be, even as they welcome the new energy. For a buyer, Chapin offers lake living and excellent schools near a state capital. Just know that its rural road network is doing big suburb work now. Lake charm, country roads, and traffic the town outgrew. If you're learning things about the Carolinas you never expected, do me a favor and hit that like button. It genuinely helps this video reach more people just like you. Number 6. Mauldin, South Carolina. When I first drove into Mauldin, wedged into the fast-growing heart of the Greenville metro, I hit the traffic that defines daily life here. Here's the wildcard fact. Mauldin has become one of the most popular suburbs in the booming Greenville area, but it sits along heavily traveled corridors feeding into a regional interstate that was never built to handle this volume, and the result is congestion that has become a genuine daily grind for the tens of thousands of people who now call it home. This is the price of being perfectly located. The same easy access that made Mauldin explode with growth is exactly what jams its roads at rush hour. The town is investing heavily in a new downtown and in connecting trails to give people options beyond driving, but the cars keep coming. For a buyer, Mauldin offers an affordable central spot in one of the South's hottest metros. Just factor the commute into your daily math because everyone else is on the road with you, and the corridor doesn't magically clear anytime soon. The upside is that Mauldin is genuinely trying a walkable downtown, a growing trail network, and real efforts to give people ways to get around without a car. But for now, the honest reality is a lot of time behind the wheel. prime location, constant traffic, and a metro that keeps filling in. Number 5. Irmo, South Carolina. When I first drove into Irmo, a booming suburb on the edge of Columbia near Lake Murray, I found a town where the shopping corridors and the commuters collide. Here's the wildcard fact. Irmo has grown into one of the Columbia area's most popular suburbs, drawing families with its lake access, its schools, and its shopping. But that popularity has turned its main commercial corridors into some of the most congested in the whole region, where a quick trip across town at the wrong hour can turn into a genuine ordeal. That's the retail and rooftops trap. The shopping and the subdivisions both feed the same overloaded roads and the traffic compounds. Irmo remains a genuinely desirable place to live, with the lake right there and the capital city minutes away, which is precisely why it keeps filling up. For a buyer, it offers suburban convenience and lake proximity near a growing capital. Just know that convenience comes with a crowd, especially on the main drag, where a run to the store at the wrong hour can eat a big chunk of your afternoon. It's a reminder that the very amenities that make a suburb desirable, the shopping, the lake, the schools, are the same things that pack its roads. Lake access, busy corridors, and a suburb bursting at its seams. Number 4. Mooresville, North Carolina. When I first drove into Mooresville, known to racing fans as Race City, USA, I found a Lake Norman boomtown where the schools and roads are both feeling the strain. Here's the wildcard fact. Mooresville has grown explosively as one of the anchor towns of the Lake Norman region north of Charlotte, and that growth has pushed both its schools and its road network hard. The town is in the middle of major highway widening projects just to handle the traffic, while its schools work to keep pace with a steady flood of new families. This is a town carrying a double load. The lake and the racing industry draw people in, and Charlotte's overflow adds even more. The roads leading to the interstate crawl at rush hour, and every new subdivision adds more cars and more kids to systems already working overtime. For a buyer, Mooresville offers lake life, a unique motorsports culture, and Charlotte access. Just know it's a town actively racing to widen its roads and expand its schools fast enough. Lake boomtown, double strain, and infrastructure in a permanent sprint. Number 3. Huntersville, North Carolina. And number 3 is the one that makes commuters the angriest, because they were promised a fix that never really came. When I first drove the Interstate 77 corridor through Huntersville, north of Charlotte, I experienced firsthand one of the most notorious traffic situations in the state. Here's the wildcard fact. To relieve the brutal congestion on I-77, the state added express toll lanes through Huntersville a few years back. But the traffic in the regular lanes remains as bad as ever, and drivers who want the faster toll lanes can pay astonishing sums, with a one-way trip from the Mooresville area into Charlotte costing nearly $30 at peak times. That's the teaser I promised you. Hundreds of millions spent, and commuters paying almost $30 a day just to escape the jam. For a family, that toll can add up to hundreds of dollars a month, simply to get to work on time. Meanwhile, the free lanes still crawl, and every new development along the corridor adds more cars. Huntersville is a genuinely desirable, thriving town, but its signature growing pain is a daily, expensive reminder that you can't always build your way out of traffic. Expensive tolls, endless congestion, and a fix that left drivers frustrated. Number 2, Indian Trail, North Carolina. And number 2 is a place where the growth has hit such a hard ceiling that it's quietly limiting how much more can even be built. When I first drove into Indian Trail, the largest town in Union County southeast of Charlotte, I saw a suburb that grew to over 40,000 people and slammed straight into its own infrastructure limits. Here's the wildcard fact. Indian Trail's main artery, US 74, is so congested that the state has funded years of widening projects just to keep it moving. But the deeper problem is underground because the area's water and sewer capacity has been pushed near its limits, which can quietly cap how many new homes developers are actually allowed to finish. That's the teaser I promised you. A booming suburb where the pipes themselves put a ceiling on the growth. Think about how fundamental that is. It's one thing to sit in traffic, it's another when a town literally cannot process any more wastewater without major new investment. Indian Trail remains hugely popular for its schools and its lower taxes, which is exactly why the pressure keeps building. For a buyer, it's a desirable, fast-growing suburb. Just understand that both above ground and below it, this town is running up against real physical limits. Gridlocked highway, maxed out pipes, and growth pressing against a hard ceiling. If you've made it this far, you clearly want the real picture before you move. So, do yourself a favor and hit that like button, then let's get to number 1. Number 1, Carolina Forest, South Carolina. And honestly, No place on this list shows the strain of runaway growth more vividly than this one. When I first drove into Carolina Forest, a massive, fast-growing community just inland from Myrtle Beach, I saw the single clearest example of infrastructure buckling under a population boom anywhere in the Carolinas. Here's the wildcard fact. Carolina Forest is part of Horry County Schools, the third largest school district in all of South Carolina, serving more than 47,000 students, and roughly 20 of its schools are projected to be over capacity in what the district calls the red zone. At the center of it sits Carolina Forest High School, the district's single most overcrowded campus and one of the largest high schools in the entire state, packing in around 2,800 students and pushing to roughly 120% of its design capacity, with portable classroom trailers brought in just to hold everyone. That's the teaser I opened with, a school teaching hundreds of kids in trailers in a district with 20 campuses over capacity. And it's the perfect symbol of this whole video, because schools are where a boom becomes impossible to hide. You can widen a road slowly over years, but when hundreds of new families arrive every single year, the classrooms fill up right now, faster than anyone can build. The district is scrambling, buying land, building new elementary schools, redrawing attendance lines, but the growth keeps outrunning the construction. Meanwhile, the roads through Carolina Forest, feeding all that Myrtle Beach coastal growth, stay jammed, and the whole community strains to keep pace with itself. That's why Carolina Forest is number one. Not because its people did anything wrong, they moved to a beautiful, affordable spot near the beach, exactly as anyone would, but because it captures the whole story of this list in one place. A wonderful, desirable community growing so fast that its most basic systems, especially its schools, simply cannot keep up. It's the boom and the buckling, happening in the same place at the same time. And out of all 12, it's the clearest warning of what unchecked growth actually does on the ground. So line all 12 of these up, and the lesson is the same everywhere. Growth is not the villain. Every one of these places is booming because it's genuinely a good place to live. But growth that outruns its infrastructure has a real, daily human cost. The parent stuck in traffic, the kid in a trailer classroom, the toll that eats a paycheck, the town that can't lay pipe fast enough. None of this means these towns are bad choices. It means that if you're planning to move to a Carolina boomtown, you owe it to yourself to look past the shiny new subdivision and ask the unglamorous questions. How bad is the commute at 5 p.m.? Are the schools on trailers? Is there water and sewer capacity for the next decade? Do that homework and you can enjoy the boom instead of getting crushed by it, because the developers already know exactly where the strain is. Now you do too. So if this video showed you a side of the Carolina boom you hadn't considered, subscribe and hit that bell so you don't miss the next one. Drop a comment telling me which town's growing pains surprised you the most. I read every single one. And if this video hits 15,000 likes, I'll do a part 2 with 12 more towns straining under the weight of their own success. I'll see you in the next.